Welcome, everybody, to another podcast from SuperHouse. This one is actually kind of a different one than the other ones. This one's just going to be me and a comedian named Ryan Sickler. He's also been an actor in a few movies. He's most known for Cutting Man and Mr. Payback, and he was in Live at Gotham, which I don't think is related to Batman. And then he's been on a few Funny or Die sketches, and he's a stand-up comedian from Baltimore, and he's out here in LA, and he was nice enough to come on the podcast to help us kind of get more listeners, to be honest with you, and that's what I explained to him. So here we go, and I hope you guys enjoy the interview. Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's out on the veranda. This is beautiful.
Yeah. If you could just tell everybody like what you do, what your name is, and all that.
My name is Ryan Sickler. I'm a comedian. I'm a writer. I'm a producer. I do stand-up. I also have a podcast on the All Things Comedy Network called All Things Comedy. It's a storytelling podcast, a comedic storytelling podcast. Although some of the stories we get are, as you know, pretty crazy, dark, and deep. Yeah, that's what I do.
Cool. And where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I was born in the city, grew up outside the city a few years later.
And what brought you out here? Was it comedy or what?
Yeah, comedy brought me out here.
What did you grow up watching? You grew up watching Carlin and Pryor, and then you're like, hey, I want to do that? Or how did that all start?
What happened was when I was about 9, we had this thing in Maryland called Super TV, which was like the early stages of cable.
Okay.
And it was a box that's actually funny because remember there was a time when cable boxes got small, and now they're all back to big again.
Yeah.
This was a big box, and you used to press a button on the top of it. And in the evening, you would get, back then it was HBO, there was an adult channel, might even been Playboy, I'm not sure what it was, and a couple other things. And one night, my father was sitting in the living room. I was upstairs in bed, and I got out of bed, and I came down the stairs into the, I say foyer, not foyer, into the foyer, and I saw he was sitting in a chair with his back to me, and I saw on the TV these kids. And I was like, oh, well, there's kids. I'm a kid. I'm probably allowed to watch this. And I sat there, and I started watching. And what it ended up was Richard Pryor and Bustin' Loose.
Okay.
Which he's an ex-con that has to take these troubled kids to this orphanage. And I started laughing so hard I got caught. And my dad's like, get in here. And I was like, oh, shit. And then he said, sit down next to me and watch the rest of this movie. And that was it. Okay. That was it. So Pryor was and still is my all-time favorite. I mean, talk about storytelling. That guy is the greatest. And then my dad turned me on to Carlin and Rodney Dangerfield, and then I was a lover at that point too. And actually, again in 7th grade, he pulled me out of bed around midnight and brought me out to watch 6th grade, I think it was actually, watch Saturday Night Live, and Eddie Murphy doing Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood and Kill My Landlord and all that stuff. And then I just became a huge mega SNL fan.
Me too.
I loved all the way back from the Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest. I say all the way back. I went back and learned my history, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, but then through Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest, all the way through the Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr., Joan Cusack, Sarah Silverman, Damon Wayans days to where we are now. And then, just starting to really just not stand up, but anything funny. So I learned and started watching Kinnison and, everyone. I went and saw Dice at the Capitol Center, and he sold the place out when he was at the height of his career, who's actually made quite a comeback right now.
I've heard of that.
I was a big fan of Joan Rivers. I was a big fan of I actually went and saw Carlin live in Baltimore when I was my father had passed away at this point, but I was a senior in high school, and my friend's dad took me, him and I to Pier 6, which is a pavilion out on the water in the harbor, and we got to see Carlin perform live, and that was just fucking awesome.
And so Pryor's your favorite of all time, but who's your favorite right now, would you say?
Currently right now, man, that's tough. I really like. Well, it's tough, man. They're all.
Louis C.K. or
Yeah, I do like Louis, but he's not my favorite.
Jeselnik?
I really love Anthony Jeselnik. Different style. You
Yeah.
know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's hard because
Yeah.
I love Jeselnik's that Stephen Wright bang, 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 bang style. I love what Louis does with not only his comedy, but how prolific he is.
Right.
I really like Hannibal Buress. I really like, God, it's hard to say right now. I love Daniel Tosh. I think Tosh on stage, I mean, his show's still really good, but his stand-up is really fucking funny. And then there's a bunch of other guys that I don't know if you know of, but like Rory Scovel's really funny, who I podcast with. Jay Larson's great. Tom Segura, good friend, is great. Joey Diaz, another great storyteller, who I really like.
All right, cool. What's the biggest gig you've done so far?
Big as audience or big, I would say TV gigs have been the biggest. So
Okay.
I've done the Late Late Show. I did Live at Gotham on Comedy Central. I've done a few other TV appearances. But as far as numbers go, I think the largest, and it was sold out, was in San Diego. And I think it was about 1,500 or 2,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you moved out here from Baltimore to LA to do stand-up comedy. That's your thing, number one, more than acting. Like, that's the thing, right?
Well, I wouldn't just say stand-up, but comedy, yeah. More than acting, comedy for sure. Funny. Which is why, you know, as if you stay in it long enough, things like podcasting come about.
Yeah.
Even though we sort of got in a little late, you know, guys like Hardwick and Corolla and Rogan,
Right.
Marin are at such the forefront of it for comedy. And who knows in the next 5 years what the fucking next thing? Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're totally NC-17.
Oh, okay,
you
great.
can go whatever you want.
So who knows what it's going to be next? But that's part of, you know, when I first started, it was just get up and tell jokes.
Right.
Then I had to learn fucking WordPress and HTML code. I'm like, I just want to tell jokes. Like, I don't want to do this shit.
You could hire some dude.
Yeah, well, when you're getting paid nothing to do stand-up, you can't hire a dude. That's the problem.
All right.
But so I started learning how to do that shit, and then podcasting and shorts and YouTube and all that stuff. You know, it's such an evolving, growing animal that you kind of have to stay with it. And then you also start seeing like these great new voices come through this podcast format, and you know, my comedy has always been more storytelling than the Jeselnik type jokes. So it's taken a little longer to get that voice out and heard. But with podcasting, I mean, we have a really popular podcast, and we have a rabid fan base. They're intelligent, they're smart, and I love when comics go out on the road and they, you know, like, damn, 10 fucking Crab Feast fans were at the show tonight. They came up to me and told me they heard me on your podcast, and they're not the drunk people interrupting. They're not the attention whores. They're really there because they love comedy, and they're really smart and savvy.
It seems like the comedy world, I think more than any other entertainment medium or any other medium, really has embraced podcasting. If you look at Doug Loves Movies with Doug Benson and Mark Maron and all these guys, I guess it's just a combination of people that just like to talk, and that people like to listen to these guys talk and tell funny stories or jokes, and I guess it was a happy marriage. But when I first learned about podcasting and podcasts in general, the first thing that came to my mind was like an NPR show.
Yeah, or a radio show, like a morning zoo radio show, which there are quite plenty of those out there as well. But yeah, I would agree with that. And what I think, you know, and Bill Burr, by the way, is another another comedian I love, definitely. By the way, because I was going to bring him up as an example. But like, you know, you'll see Bill Burr on Letterman. Well, not even Letterman anymore. Look, I'm dating myself already. But Fallon or, you know, whatever, Colbert, and you get 4.5, 5 minutes of it, and you want more. So you go to his Monday morning podcast, and you can listen to Bill Burr uninterrupted, unedited, for however long he goes, an hour and a half. And every time it's not hearing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
His voice is there, but this time he's talking about this, and this time he's talking about that. And I think that people, whether you're commuting, whether you're traveling, whether you're exercising, walking the dog, whatever, if you're putting earbuds in and you're taking, or you're working around the house, a lot of people that can listen to podcasts at work and stuff, you get your favorite person for, 90 minutes. And you can listen to all of that, or you can listen to 20 or 30 minutes of it, but you're not sitting around waiting for that 4.5 minute set.
Right.
And you really get to know a person better that way. I mean, you certainly know who Bill Burr is or any of these comedians today from that 4.5 minute voice, but you don't get to hear them. You get to hear them through FCC rules. You don't get to hear them the way they want you to be heard.
Right. Speaking of
if they're not clean, if Seinfeld and all those guys, sure. Sebastian Maniscalco also is another comedian I really love. He's fucking funny as shit.
All right. Speaking
They'll
of
keep coming to me. Don't worry.
The craft of stand up. There's the story. Maybe it's legendary. I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly George Carlin told Louis C.K. George Carlin had seen a couple shows that Louis C.K. did, and he was like, "That's a nice bit, but you have to change it every time now," because Louis C.K. Apparently he had found the perfected bit. He had finally got this exact thing. He made everybody laugh every time, everywhere he went. And it was perfectly well written and all that. And Carlin was like, "That's great, but you're gonna have to change it up now every time if you want to continue forward." Have you heard anything about that?
I've not heard that. What I have heard, and I try to do this as well now in my own stand-up, is when you first start and you finally find what you think is your strongest material and it's your 5-minute closer, to challenge yourself, you open with it.
Oh, okay.
Because then everything after that has got to be as good or better and build.
Right.
And that's a really good way to write. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember if that came from Carlin. I feel like it probably was a Carlin type thing or even a Louis thing. But if you're getting an applause break or a standing ovation for a chunk at the end, and you move that up front, you open with that, I mean, it's either all going to be downhill from there, or you're just going to keep swinging for the fences and crush. And I think it's a great way to challenge yourself because, you can easily get into a rut and get on autopilot. And, there's some comedians that are out on the road now that they've been doing the same act for 20 years.
And just live off of that.
Like Steve Miller Band rolling around doing greatest fucking hits all the time and still touring, You
got to update.
Yeah.
You've been doing that lately, or
I've been doing that for a while. I have a story that I really like to tell that I used to end on, and now I open with it, and it makes me push harder to come up with good content and good stories and funny bits that are, again, as good or better than that, and just keep people entertained the entire time.
It makes you feel you were less comfortable at first, but now you're moving more.
I think it's always good to be uncomfortable up there sometimes. I mean, you get into a comfort zone, but what I mean by comfortable is just, propping your feet up and throwing the switch on autopilot versus really being in the moment and moving with it and putting it out there. I'm never uncomfortable on stage performing. I'm sometimes uncomfortable with the way a set went, or I'm like, man, I fucked that up, or I should have done better. And I'm usually honest with myself. I give myself grades. I'll throw out, I'm like, that was a C-, and I know it. No matter what anybody comes up to me and goes, "Oh, you were hilarious." I'm like, I always say thanks and I'm polite, but then I know I've had better sets. And also amazes me to watch comedians who have these less than mediocre sets, but they keep doing them. They never write it differently and never grow and never, challenge themselves. That's really what the big thing is for me, is let me challenge myself and see if I can make it funny. And, also feel like almost everything out there has been, except for new technology and shit, it's been talked about. To bring a different point of view to it I think is the challenge for a comedian. And then also the art of acting as if you're saying this for the first time, even though you've been working it out. You know, you might have done 4 sets that night, you know. So I love the art of it, and I love messing with the art of it, you know.
All right. Let's see. From the time when you first started watching comedy and getting into comedy, how do you feel stand-up comedy has changed over the years? In what ways have you seen it change? Has it been a good way or in bad ways?
I feel like it's been a negative way. Everyone is so PC right now. It's too much. You know, jokes are jokes, you know, and that's all they were ever meant to be, whether it's racial or sexual or, you know, political, whatever it is. They're jokes. They're meant to poke fun at these societal norms and you know, stuff that you think but you don't have the balls to say, or you wish someone did for you. Like, that's what we are. That's who we are. We're the voice of that. And it's funny. I was just having a conversation with a friend the other night about how great In Living Color was when it came out and the barriers they broke, and they were up against this machine called SNL, and they were just thriving and crushing on Sunday nights. And Damon did a character called Handyman that would not even be allowed on TV right now.
Who was that character again?
Handyman.
Yeah.
When he was a handicapped guy, and he had like I don't know if he had Downs or cerebral palsy or a mixture of all these. I don't know really what. I don't know if they ever said what he had, but he talked like he was special needs and mentally challenged, and like he would, when he'd fly away, he would fly out this window, but he would just fall out the fucking window, and it would make me laugh so hard. And we're just like, that was, you know, that was early 90s, late 80s,
Right,
early 90s.
right.
That shit wouldn't even be on TV right now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go back and watch some of old Seinfeld reruns, and there's content in Seinfeld
Right.
that wouldn't even say, they would go, nope, we're not even going near that right now.
Right.
So I think you look at it two ways. I think that with the technology that's out there now, and formats like podcasting and webcasting and you know, shorts and YouTube videos and all that, I think that's been great for comedy to open up so many other voices, because there are so many funny people, and sometimes I think not everything translates to stage. So I think that's been great. But as far as the fucking PC police go and all the, there's 1,000 people here tonight, but I'm offended. The one guy, because that fucking guy is offended, the rest of us can't fucking talk about it anymore. So I think that's been a huge negative going on.
This is the exact kind of stuff that Johnson, he's...
Sup, Johnson?
Yeah, Johnson has wanted to ask this stuff. He's a SuperHouse member. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know who he is. Yeah, he would... I was going to ask this later, but since we're on the topic, he was... Again, this might be the same exact answer, but he wanted to ask, how does stuff like safe spaces, trigger warnings, extreme identity politics, which are popular mainly on college campuses, affect how you write?
They don't affect how I write because I don't do colleges.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I don't do them. I haven't done them in a while. I've done plenty of them. I've never had a problem. I've done plenty of military shows. Actually, military shows are the funny ones because, you know, they're military guys. I mean, they... You know, the term you speak like a sailor it wasn't made up.
Yeah.
But when you go there, they don't want you cursing. They don't want you're not allowed to say shit about the president because that's their commander in chief. You can't even poke fun at him. So the very thing these guys want to hear, we're told not to do it.
Okay.
So you know, and those are rules and regulations of the military. But as far as college, and you'll see all these comedians talking about it right now. The PC police, you know, it's, well, that was sexist. Well, that was racist. Well, that was, you know, anti-feminist or anti-masculine, or, you know, you're being homophobic, or you're being, you know, everyone's got this title and this umbrella. And you know, I feel like it's a very entitled generation. I feel like it's a very, I feel like they police words and content way too much instead of just taking shit as a joke. You know, there is an art to ball busting. But part of that art is you got to be able to fucking take it. And the best part of the art for me is if you give it back. I mean, that's what we want. We want you to engage, and listen. But yeah, college campuses right now, I can tell you too, I've been doing stand up for, 15 years, and it's changed considerably, because when you get there, they'll tell you you're not allowed to say this or talk about this or talk about that. But a lot of the kids want to hear that.
Right.
But all it takes is one or two people to be fucking offended and tell mom and dad, well, mom and dad are paying their tuition, and mom and dad are going to call the school, and they're going to fucking go off on the school, and then the school's going to have a problem with the content you brought up and what you said. And hey, those also happen to be boosters and fun, people that support the school. So we can't have that. Money's got to come in. So then it all becomes this very big policing that I just don't think is good, not only for comedy, but, for anything.
Yeah, I knew this Italian guy I used to work with, not the Italian guy we currently work with.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that in Europe, people are more openly racist, but that makes everything a little bit smoother. There's people are just so on edge in America, he felt like. And I thought that was so interesting when he said that.
And he's right. We are. And when you look at planet Earth as a whole, the United States, we're basically the teenager of this planet right now. And we sure as fuck act like a teenager a lot of time. We put our nose in people's business. We throw our opinions onto everybody. We tell people what they can and can't say, and what they should and shouldn't say, and why I don't like it and why I'm bothered by it. I just feel like, we, as a country, we've got a lot more maturing to do, and we're very uptight, and, you take a fucking joke. Take a fucking joke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's jokes. You're coming to see a comedian to laugh. You don't go into anything comedy related and think, let me pick the holes apart, and that was racially insensitive, and that was whatever. Just chill the fuck out and laugh and have fun. Laughter's still the best medicine. As cliche as it is, it really is. But not if you're going in with your fist balled up and, waiting on trigger words or shit that you don't like anybody to say.
Right. I feel the same way.
Good.
Shifting to something a little bit lighter. How'd you get into podcasting?
I got into podcasting. A friend of mine had mentioned doing it, and we started doing it. And then I really enjoyed the format. We were a mixture of a bit of storytelling and then listener call-ins and things like that. And that got a little too morning radio for me. And what I really wanted to focus on was bringing in our comedy friends and celebrities that were good storytellers and had good stories to tell. And I really could see at that moment then, if we just focused on that, we could take this somewhere, and fortunately we did.
That's awesome. I've got really into listening to a lot of Kevin Smith's podcasts.
Yeah.
He's got the whole Smodcast network.
Do live shows at the Hollywood Improv where you can also see the Crab Feast.
Feel free to
monthly.
Throw out all your social whatever.
Yeah, thecrabfeast.com. I'm Ryan Sickler on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, ryansickler.com. We release a new episode of the Crab Feast every Tuesday. We're on the All Things Comedy Network, which is started by Bill Burr and Al Madrigal, another great comedian, Al Madrigal, who I love. And if you go over there, it's it's a who's who of comedians and podcasts.
Awesome, yeah. What Kevin Smith's always saying is he's kind of inspirational sometimes, and he'll say well, you and your friends should do it too. And you don't know what could happen, and it's free, and it's unregulated, and you can do whatever you want. Just hang out and have fun with your friends, and record it. And that's kind of what we're doing with SuperHouse, even though we're living all over the world. I mean, Johnson, like we said earlier, is living in Latvia right now.
What's up, Johnson?
We actually have this podcast that we do, just me and him, called Johnson and Bush.
I like that.
So that one's been pretty good. And, yeah, he's going to agree with you 1,000% on the PC stuff. But, yeah, we said this might be a little bit of a shorter episode, but just to kind of like start to wind down here, just wanted to know, like, what are your dreams? What are the goals from now? Like, you've come to LA, you've done big shows, you know, you're on Funny or Die. I've been looking at your IMDb and stuff like that. Like, what's the next step? What's your ultimate dream or goal from now on?
I mean, my ultimate goal would be to have my own show. And I used to say on TV, but now, you know, these digital platforms like CISO and which is NBC's, and all the other ones out there, Netflix, they're really, really kicking ass right now. So have my own content, I guess, and to keep the podcast going. I really enjoy getting in there and listening. Like, at some point we've done, I don't know, over 200 and some episodes, and we do a bunch of live ones. Like, we're back at the Bridgetown Festival this year. We were at South by Southwest. We were at LA Pod Fest this year. We've done that one a few times. LA Riot Festival. We do a lot of the festivals. We just did San Francisco Sketch Fest at the end of the year of 2015. So I'm a fan. You know, you run out of your stories. You know, you only have so much life experience. I'm only 43. And, you know, I really enjoy being a fan of sitting there and listening to people's stories. It blows me away when I'm like, what? When it really captures me and moves me, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'd love to write a book. I'd love to write my own show. I'd say those are my goals. Or get my own show on the air.
This would be like a late night type of show, or stand up comedy hour type of show, or
no, I wouldn't. Just comedy. It doesn't have to be proper stand up. I really love storytelling. I love storytelling. I would love to do something in that genre where, you know, you go out and talk to normal people, the real people of our world. Because one thing I've learned through podcasting, storytelling at least, is that some of these comedians you've never heard of, 10 times funnier. Stories are 10 times better than any of these people that litter your television these days. Mm-hmm. And I'm a person that just, if there's a dude over in the corner at a party and he's like, man, I lost my leg, I'm going right over to fucking talk to that guy. Like, yeah. I want to talk to that guy. I want to talk to that lady. And Jay Larson, who I do the Crab Feast with, he and I both, like, I was raised without parents. My dad died when I was 16. My mom was gone before that. His dad was split. So also extended family, grandmoms and great aunts and stuff, their sisters really played a big role in my life. So I can sit down and bro out with a frat boy and talk to you about sports and drinking all day long. But I also could slide into a pinochle or bingo game with a bunch of silver-haired ladies and be the same person and get the same results. And I love those people, and I love just that, I guess, Americana and the voice of each person. And I love someone that can really tell a good story. There's a lot of people out there who have great stories, do not know how to tell them well. And there's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a skill set there.
And there's also, you know, when you come on our show, I want to ask you stories. I want to ask you questions about your stories. I don't want to ask you questions to get stories out of you. There's a big difference there too. And you know, that just pumps the brakes when you got to sit there and ask people, you ever have a near-death experience? You ever been in a fight? You ever been arrested? You got a crazy childhood growing up? If they're bringing those stories to sit in the pocket and ask them specifics about those, because you can see a light bulb turn on and people like, oh, my God, I forgot about this part. You know, then my dad shot at this dude and ... and then we're going down that fucking road.
Right.
So I really enjoy that.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. And I just, before we close out completely, this is not a normal thing, but I was wondering, do you have any questions for me? If not, it's okay.
Yeah. Why? Well, I think you kind of answered why podcasting with Kevin Smith, but what are your goals with this format?
My goals are right now pretty simple, just to kind of get more listeners. Look, it's been the greatest thing. I've tried podcasting a few times before, and people got busy or whatever. It just didn't work out. But right now, like the guys I'm working with, even though we're hardly ever in the same room, they're so into it. Like they like to plan it out. they like to they're like we're going to do this topic now, this topic now, this topic now, and I'm not the leader, but I'm kind of the organizer, and I'm editing it and putting it on board, and it's helpful to have people that are really into it, as far as
passion.
Passionate about it. They like podcasting.
Drive,
we're all buds.
dedication.
We've been college friends for 15.
I think that's important
now.
too. The camaraderie and the connection and the what's the magic word I'm looking for?
Passion. I don't know.
No, keep talking about that.
Just to get more listeners and to just start to do things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
More and more. Like the more freelance stuff. If we could do more stuff with SuperHouse, that'd be so great. Get them out to LA or go visit Johnson in Latvia or
Sup,
whatever.
Johnson.
So yeah, that's as far as podcasting. That's all I can say right now.
I would say rapport was probably the word I was looking for.
Okay.
I've learned a little bit about you here. How long did you live in Japan?
I lived there for 3 years. That was from 2006 to 2009.
And you speak fluent Japanese?
I speak near fluent. I've been studying for 12 years now, since 2004.
And it's still not fluent. Is it because it's that hard, or you don't do it often enough, or is it?
Learning a language is very tough. They say you can never really master it after puberty.
I haven't mastered this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can really get by really well, but, like, I actually said this on a previous podcast. If they were to start talking politics, or if some nerds were about to talk about, like, physics or something, I would be lost. And the only reason is it's not magic. I just haven't studied those words yet that much. Like, I had a friend that he had passed this test, like the top test for learning Japanese. And I was like, hey, how do you learn this? How do you do this? And he was like, I make word lists. And I was just like, you're right. There's no fucking magic to it. You just got to fucking keep going and going and going. And that's basically it. And so
that's basically it with anything in life. It really is. So comedy, podcasting, language, relationships.
12 years of making word lists, and I haven't gotten to the Japanese parliamentary system because there's just more to learn. But yeah, I can hold my own.
All right. Now my last question is, what do you want to do? What are your dreams and aspirations? What brought you here?
I went to school for film and television, and to be honest with you, I'm in my 30s. I'm still figuring it out. But I think one of my biggest goals in life is it doesn't involve jobs. I just want to travel. Really. That's the most honest answer I can give you.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, too. I'd love to hang it up and do that as well. I really would. I'd like to have a snowball stand in fucking Cuba and just chill on the beach.
Sell ices?
Yeah. Ices and crab cakes, man. I'd crush.
Yeah, like travel, but if I did have to work, it would be in the film industry. I do like post quite a bit. I like, if you check out, this is a plug, but it's happened naturally, I guess. Thunderwolf Live on, we're not live, but it was supposed to be Thunderwolf Lives. Anyway, it is Thunderwolf Lives. It's Thunderwolf Lives on YouTube, and I like doing my projects there, my documentaries. I have some about Japan and video games, cosplay, kind of nerd-related stuff mostly. I like that stuff. I really like doing that stuff as well. So
that's great.
If I can make money out of SuperHouse or Thunderwolf,
you can.
That's kind of where I'm trying to head to.
You can make money out of podcasting. Don't let the people tell you can't. You absolutely can, and you should.
Right. So that's basically it.
That's great. This is great.
All right.
Out here on the veranda. What's up, Johnson?
What's up, Johnson? All right. So that's been it, man. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
me. Starting this whole thing, and this is going to really boost us. So, man, it's been so good. So, again, thank you. That's all I got to say.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
So that was Ryan Sickler, stand-up comedian and actor out here in L.A. Thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of SuperHouse. We're going to record again this Sunday and release a new episode on Monday. That's the usual schedule. In the next episode, the full crew will be back, and as many people as we can get anyway. I'll be there for sure. And again, you can catch us on Twitter at SuperHousePod. You can email us at SuperHousePodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us in the iTunes Store or iTunes Podcast section and in SoundCloud by searching for SuperHouse. We changed the name from Thundercast Podcast just a straight up SuperHouse to make things easier for everybody. And that's it. Thanks a lot. Catch you later.